Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm leading the session. I'm Maciej Zaleski, and I have the honor and privilege to say welcome to co-organizer of the session, Minister Marek Grubarczyk, Secretary of State and Minister of Infrastructure. It's also the pleasure to introduce Ambassador of Poland, permanent representative in UN, Krzysztof Szczerski. And also Mariusz Lewicki, permanent representative in UNESCO, as far as UNESCO is organizer, and we have the privilege to have a director of the Division of Water Science, who is the spiritus of movens of this session, Director Abu Amani. Now I would like to ask Minister Marek Grubarczyk to say a few words for opening this session.
Thank you very much, professors, dear audience. I am very happy to start this meeting, very important, and thank you very much for your idea to visible in the future, and hopefully we change the little bit future, of course, towards with the United Nations. So let me officially start this process. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, the topic is very interesting. Transdisciplinary Ecohydrology for an acceleration of strategic development goals, so-called SDG, methodology on scientists and pattern of implementation. Ecohydrology is acknowledged by the United Nations and European Union as an associated discipline of the great importance for acceleration of achievement of Sustainable Development Goals (SDG). The Anthropogenic era, which we will live now, is the time of rapid development of the social industry and the technology, but also the time for the integrated action of the global level. This is because we have only one planet Earth, and we have to make a joint effort to reserve degradation of the biosphere and achieve desirable vision of the future. The strategy to achieve this has to contain elements: elimination of environment threat and enhance of resilience of natural systems, which provides to ecosystem service for humanity. UN is important organization which facilitate cooperation of this positive path toward the future. As a major chance its humanity in 21st century in UN postulate an urgent acceleration of a SDG, where the water is to be considered a key drive and common denominator of a mutual process crucial for SDG. This session will define a new perspective how to use ecosystem properties as innovate game change in water and environment resource management. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give the floor to Professor to bring the really very important speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say that our session, Transdisciplinary Science, is somehow responding to increasing complexity of the relation man and biosphere, and especially as we know the water is key driver of sustainability, we will focus on innovation, one of the key elements, the game changing. And why innovation? This is starting from the Einstein statement that people are tending to try to solve the problem by the way of thinking which create the problem, and this never work. We have to change the way of thinking. And Ecohydrology is changing the game 3 dimensions. First, this is by integration, ecology, hydrology, and other related sciences, is highlighting life-supporting processes. If we profoundly understand life-supporting processes, we can develop advanced nature-based solutions. In this conference, we introduce the statement advanced, not only nature. Advanced, it means nature-based solutions which are supported by technology, molecular biology, phytotechnology. In this moment, efficiency increase, sometimes order of magnitude, and costs are reduced, which is extremely important for us. And if we have a profound understanding life supporting process and advanced nature, we have enhanced sustainability potential. Water, bioproductivity, biodiversity, biocomplexity, services for society, and resilience of the system. This is something which really is expressing our holistic view and encouraging to dialogue between different specialists, which is fundamental to solve. Why enhance? This figure was showing demographic growth is showing why. If we on the earth was 3 billion people, conservation was stabilizing, and the idea was stabilizing the nature, and was great, was enough. But when already was more than 5 billion people, the restoration idea was expressing the concept of reversing degradation. Now, these both are important, still in use, and has to be. However, we have to think more ambitious, and we enhance sustainability of the planet to really make harmony between man and environment. So, what is the problem? Because, as I said on the beginning, relation between man and water becomes more complex and more complex, and water management is mostly taking the water and releasing to water pollutants. And ecosystems are to a great extent black box, and we have to open black box and start to interplay between ecosystem use as a tools. Next. And how ecosystems are important, showing this recent map showing that in this red area, ecosystems are responsible in 80% on stabilization and recirculation of water. So if, of course, there are some dark blue area when oceanic effects, climate and precipitation is important. However, Poland, for example, has a 40% is dependent on ecosystem status and biomass which is in the landscape. Next one. And however, how we should shape the landscape? Of course, we are going toward bioeconomy. Absolutely, it's important. However, what bioeconomy? On the right side, we see this semi-desert industrial agriculture, which is degrading the different hydrological processes which are affecting the amount of water, pattern of water, and quality of water. And left side is showing the positive situation when we have created landscape with high buffering capacity, purification capacity, and recirculation of nutrients capacity, efficient agriculture. Next one. And of course, anticipatory models are fundamental to start to prepare this advanced nature-based and systemic solution, which are integrate hydrology, ecology. Next one. And this is already example. What means advanced nature-based solution? This is sequential biofiltration system, which is reducing very efficient. On the left, you see input condensation of suspended matter output, and it's not wetland, not constructed wetland, but mimicking self-purification process of rivers, which we enhancing also by selecting bacteria which are driving certain processes to make this more efficient. Next one. Next. And this is combination hydroengineering and nature-based solution, hybrid system. On the beginning, we had 165 milligrams suspended matter. After going through this hybrid system, we have 3.5, 20 times reduction, and costs are absolutely minimum. Next one. This was awarded Best of the Best Life Plus by European Commission, this solution. And finally, retention. We have to retain the water. How? We know that building reservoirs, blocking the river is not necessarily good, especially in small river. And on the right side, you have a beautiful wide river with beavers, and project on the left was typical hydrotechnical project, blocking the river. Question was to ERC if such a construction will be generating toxic algal bloom. I said, if you construct like this, yes, but we propose make lateral reservoir, keeping beautiful wild river still, continue, and on the right side, the system which measuring the pattern ecohydrological processes, full pulses of concentration of phosphorus and environmental flow. And there are some moments when we have 800 micrograms of phosphorus, which generate toxic algal bloom, but some periods below 100. No. And system is getting only this clear water reservoir. It's never blooming. Next one. So now paradigm change. We're coming to the methodology of science. This is on the left, the most recent publication, which, as you see, the sociocentric approach, the information management and so on. But without consideration this nature-based solution, which I introduced just now, example, few, we have a minute like this already. And we have to combine the sociocentric mechanistic, yes, very important, however, with evolutionary ecosysteming, and with an advanced nature-based solution toward enhancement sustainability. Next one. And how to do it? If we want to really make holistic view, we must combine hydrochemistry, microbiology, biotechnology, limnology, hydrology, satellite images, drones, and so on. And this only gives you all scope of possibilities and understanding the nature profound and harmonized our needs with the potential. Still keeping in mind some area to be conserved, conservation biology and so on. Finally, we need the transfer, methodology of science. Pure science, holistic model which I introduced, testing the models in the catchment, is developing this innovative solution, and next transfer and testing in other places, like in Ethiopia we have done in the framework Polish aid program, when this resulted in establishing the African Center for Ecohydrology. Next. And let's come to summary. If we're starting from information, understanding structures, states and processes, this is fundamental assessment. Next stage, if we have assessed and we can generate knowledge, understanding patterns and processes. This is background to create advanced nature-based solution. And wisdom, combining assessment with advanced nature, we can generate systemic solution for enhancement. Briefly, why ecohydrology is framework in UNESCO HP, water and water for all, becoming game changer. First, life supporting processes explanation, ecosystem for water, not only water for ecosystem like was stated in some documents, new paradigm, open black box, advanced nature-based solution, enhancement idea of catchment sustainability, WBSR, but also this harmonization with society. This has to be by culture, education, and LPG, law, policy and governance. Everything has to be translated to law, policy and governance. And finally, foresight. We have to create desirable vision of future based on science and harmonization of society priorities with enhanced potential of sustainability. And this already somehow started to appear in the strategic document, the European Commission, UNESCO, first of all, and the European Commission, Water for All already. And I would like to say that thanks to my colleagues from UNESCO, because all the inspiration and work was done thanks to such program, which is giving opportunity to talk with people from different cultures, different countries, and is something like Darwinian paradigm, only when you're exposed to this. So, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I encourage to submit the papers to special issue Journal Ecohydrology, which to make this memorable side event really kind of permanent of science. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I think that we have not too much time. Director Abu Amani will be.
Thank you very much, Professor Zalowski, and also for the Secretary of State for inviting UNESCO. We are very excited really to continue promoting this approach of ecohydrology. We have been doing it almost 3 decades now. Just to show you that this is a visionary approach, because now everybody is talking about NBS, nature-based solution. But within the UNESCO program, we have been already discussing that idea almost 3 decades before, to really emphasize on the fact that we cannot expect managing sustainably water resources if you are not taking it in a global ecosystemic approach. And this is why this idea of ecohydrology was grounded within the different phases of IHP. Now we are implementing the phase 9 of IHP, which is on science for a water secure in a changing environment, through a holistic and transdisciplinary approach. This is why if you look at the IHP document, the 5 priorities identified by member states are not thematic oriented. They are clustered in order really to bring the different disciplines together to address what issues. And this is why for us, we come out with this approach, learning from the work we did on ecohydrology. So looking at the system through its ensemble is really the key. Professor has already identified, explained what is ecohydrology to you. What I want to add is that we, within our program, we have what you call ecohydrology demonstrative sites. Those are sites where what he explained, the processes, understanding the science, to look at what are the interaction before being upscale is part of the work of those demonstration sites. And we have been really promoting it, asking member states to apply for having some demo sites. Of course, we need to have researchers who are interested, university, in order to follow those sites, to understand what's going on. So in that regard, indeed, things have evolved. And now we have, let's go to the another slide. The next one, because this one is, so we start having a community of ecohydrology, what you call ecohydrology family. This is comprising chairs, centers of UNESCO, who are working on the idea, and we have them, few of them here, and another majority of them are represented in this table. Next slide. This is a methodology already explained by Professor. Really, the holistic approach, and now putting the component of policy aspect. Because at the end of the day, we need to help in helping member states to take decision and having appropriate policy. Next slide. So, next slide. There's a slide which is present exactly. So this slide is presenting you what are the current ecohydrology demonstration sites worldwide. We have 37 of them, and they are, as you can see, they're all over the world. And what we want through those ecohydrology demonstration sites is to continue improving our understanding of those different processes, so that we can come out with solution-oriented advice for really addressing the complex integrated water challenges in a more evidence way. And as we all know, nature-based solution is the way forward, and it has to be sustained with evidence also. And those are key objectives of those demonstration sites. This now starts being known by member states within UNESCO. And what they say now, they want to have more than demonstration site. So they are requesting UNESCO to look at other UNESCO sites, because as you know, within UNESCO we have the World Heritage Site, Natural Site, we have the Geopark. They want to us to see to what extent some of those sites where we have water, we can apply the concept of ecohydrology. So we start from this program of UNESCO, looking at not only the demonstration site of ecohydrology, but other UNESCO design sites in applying the principle of ecohydrology. And this is very, very interesting. We have already 10 biosphere reserves which are now embracing the ecohydrology principles. So our ambition is not to have any more demonstration sites. We want to have another level. But probably by the end of IHP 9, we can reach so that we can have another level, so that we can have not ecohydrology demonstration site, but ecohydrology recognized UNESCO site. Because for the time being, the demonstration sites are research sites, but we want them to be developmental sites. So I think it will take some time, but I think we are on the right track. So my message now is that I'm calling upon all of you, those who are interested really, to apply or to better develop within the landscape, because it depends on the situation also landscape. The principle of ecohydrology, please, you can apply, because every year you can submit application by June. You can send application, and then you have until August we are receiving application, and then in December we are looking at the received application so that we can identify what are those potential demonstration sites you can put in the network. And also, I'm encouraging you also to establish chairs within universities to promote this idea, and also centers on ecohydrology, because we want to create a movement, because we cannot no longer continue business as usual when it comes to water issue. NBS is the way forward, and we cannot doing properly NBS if you are not feeding it with evidence, because we need to have many evidence based on landscape, and this is very, very important. So thank you very much for all the support.
Thank you, Director Abu Amani, for the impressive speech. And important game changer for development ecohydrology and advanced nature-based solution is Water for All, big mega program of European Commission, and we have two representatives of this program. Coordinator of the program, Ariane Blum, yes, and Antonio Laporta, who is Chief of International Cooperation pillar. So, Ariane, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Matthias. I'm very pleased to be here today. I'm the coordinator of this partnership, and I've been working for the French National Research Agency. So thank you very much to Poland and the UNESCO for organizing this side event on this important topic that is not new, absolutely not new, but there are so many opportunities and needs to support research, knowledge, to protect ecosystem, and to have a society based also on nature-based solutions. So thank you. I will leave the floor directly to Antonio, who's responsible for international activities, to present our partnerships.
Thank you, Marseille. Thank you, Ariane. Well, first slide, please. Well, we have a vision. We developed a vision during the development of our proposal, the Water for All partnership, and we plan to take actions toward a water smart society. And water smart society in our dictionary means that we would like to achieve a society which is inclusive, in which water protections involve everyone, is meant to cover everyone: citizens, youth, politicians, land managers, scientists, private companies as well. we mean also water smart society as the one that provides a fair, sustainable use of fresh water resources, being the drinking water, biodiversity, irrigation, water for agriculture, energy industry, with clear, balanced, comprehensive, accessible, knowledge-based measures. And we also mean that the society we are aiming at is an innovative society in which that wants to accelerate the changes and reach local, national, international goals. Next, please. Why it is need to take actions? All those points are, I suppose, they are not new for all of you. First of all, there is a sharp decrease of available annual freshwater resources per inhabitant. And this happens in different ways around the world, but at least in Europe, for what regards the area in which we are operative, there is a very huge decrease in availability. You can see, for example, that in Spain, the decrease of availability of water, fresh water, is 65%. In Malta is 54%. In the Mediterranean is a quite common feature. Also, it is very well known that according to the report of the IPCC, the last one, water-related disasters, hydroclimatical extreme events are increasing in frequency and in intensity. And this is much likely due to the climate change, but it is also related to the very bad land use and management of water that we do into our countries. One of the major legislative tools that are available in Europe is the Water Framework Directive. That is nowadays a little bit aged because it became operational in 2000, so it is more than 20 years old. That was aiming at obtaining a good ecological status for the rivers in Europe, but only 40% of those rivers have achieved this good ecological status, and 30% of the EU groundwater still is not achieving the good ecological status. So there is a strong need to accelerate the efficiency of the measures that have been put in place and the new ones that have been developing during this year. And we also, for doing this, we must improve, boost the impact of research projects, because the European Commission has been investing a lot into research projects, but as a matter of fact, we are still lagging quite a lot behind the goals that we set for ourselves. Next, please. So that's why the European Commission launched the idea of a partnership on originally in Europe, but with an open eye to involving as much as we can other countries around the world. The Commission selected 49 priorities for the European society, and that's why we in Water for All are not alone. There are plans for funding 49 partnerships, and the Water for All is one of these, and is a measure of how much the European Commission, considering this topic, water, is to be important, is the fact that the Water for All partnership has been one of the first few launched. So we are experimenting this concept of the partnerships, and this has some good effects, but also some cons, because we are tracing the street, and it is not so easy for both us or the Commission to manage this kind of partnership. Why? Because, for example, those kind of partnerships are very large. Water for All is made by 80 partners, which is a huge number. Just I don't want to be into the shows of Ariane that has to manage this large number of partners. 34 of which are research funding agency, ministries, most likely. 18 are researcher organizations, economic actors, regional, national, international networks, even some local or regional administrations. So 31 countries are represented into the Water for All partnership, 8 of which are not European. If you look into the map in the lower left corner, you can see that Brazil is a part of the partnership, together with South Africa, UK, Moldova, Turkey, and others. This is a new approach for the Commission. In which sense? First of all, because this partnership, Water for All, and the other partnerships are intergovernmental initiatives. So the government that are interested in this exercise gather together, put their own funds in the common basket, and the Commission co-funds them, putting 1/3 on top of that. So that is a new way of supporting research, which is oriented at satisfying the goals that the governments participating to the initiative have in mind. Our North Star is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. This agenda took quite a long time, 2 years more or less, to be developed, starting from the assessment of existing strategic research agenda. We have 7 big themes: water for circular economy, water for ecosystem biodiversity, water for the sustainable water management, water and health, water infrastructures, and 2 cross-cutting initiatives, the international cooperation and governance. Into the red square, you can see the topics, the sub-themes that are under the point number 2, which is water for ecosystem biodiversity, which is the one that is of interest for today. Next, please. We can skip it. I already been touched. Okay, where we are now. We have launched the first transnational call that is on the topic of management of water resources, resilience, adaptation, and mitigation of extremes. And this has been closed. The projects are close to start. Let's say in the next future. In September this year, will be launched. The second call will be launched. It is on the topics that is of interest today. It is on ecosystem services, integration of ecosystem services into the management of water resources in the context of global change. So we will look at resilience, mitigation, and adaptation of aquatic ecosystem and ecosystem services. This will be open in September. We have, of course, we plan to respond to SDG 6, which is the main argument of our partnership, but of course other water-related SDGs will be our interest, of our interest. It is important to say the overall budget that is moved by this Water for All initiative is a little bit less than €500 million, which for Europe is a huge quantity. We plan to launch international cooperation for science behind frontiers, to be involved very much into water diplomacy, and we are already working on this in this direction. And we plan to involve all actors, and we also plan to push open science and open data approach. Next, please. That's all. You can contact us at the email and on the website. On the website, you can have access to the ZRIA, so that you can have an idea of the topics that will be somehow explored during the next calls, starting from the one that will be launched in September. And you will see also how your country, if you're not yet involved into the Water for All, can be involved. There are different options. Not all of them are, let's say, expensive. So there is the possibility for any country to join us as observers for the first part in order to see how it works, to be involved on the actions that they, in which this country can be interested. We are very open to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Profound explanation, and I think that such holistic approach, which is developed in the framework intergovernmental hydrological program in Water for All, need involvement of society, and that's why we have a lecture about the culture as an element which is changing the mind of society toward acceptation of this holistic view and transdisciplinary science and advanced nature-based solution. Professor Karl Matthias Vansen from Tours University.
Thank you very much, Maciej, ladies and gentlemen. Wilderness, next slide. Beauty, dynamics, peace, harmony. How long? While we are sitting and talking here, the Hidrovia on the Paraguay River is being built, which will destroy about 50% of the Pantanal, world's largest wetlands. The war in Ukraine continues with severe damages for humans and for the environment. More and more dams are built worldwide, bringing death by 1,000 cuts to the rivers. Global socio-environmental injustice is going on. Our daily business, policies and management deliberately takes into account collateral damages of biological diversity and ecosystem functions. Take the large-bodied fish of the northern hemisphere alone. They are down to 5% compared to 1970, and in 1970 sturgeon, for example, in Europe was almost extinct. They cannot beg for pity, they cannot ask us to stop this. So we have both in biodiversity and in cultural diversity certain species traits, certain elements that are lethal, that are not compatible with our way how to manage aquatic ecosystems. So biological species that are migratory, large-bodied, attractive for hunting or sensitive or have large territories, they are not compatible. In cultural expressions, dependency on nature, low economic return, low competitivity, sensitivity against Western nation or a long time to learn these cultural practices is also not compatible with our way how to manage aquatic ecosystems in continental waters worldwide. Next. So with the river culture concept, we are trying to overcome this. We do study biological species traits and cultural traits in parallel, or better in synergy. We do not separate between these anymore. Reset values on the river ecosystem management is, I think, the first step that we have to go away from an asset-oriented management just for freshwater, drinking water, or for hydropower, or for navigation. Consider nature, consider environmental justice with non-human beings. Adapt human activities to the rhythm of the river. Humanity has come from river floodplain areas. Agriculture has been invented in floodplains. And there are many people in the world that can show us how this is still possible. So the next step is to see which of these traditional ecological knowledge and these practices can be taken over or can be transformed for our modern river management. I'm not romantic. I'm not saying that we can copy-paste things from the past. Very often they are not sustainable or not compatible with social justice, for example. Please go back with the slide. Another point are the biotic strategies. So what I call the stratagome is the entirety of the different adaptation strategies that we find about living beings. For example, how ants adapt to floods, they can teach us. For example, in the Loire we have floods, we have ants that just build underwater waterproof houses that can be flooded. And lastly, a political statement that we need to make the hydrological catchment, the water basin that unites all the water falling into and finally assembling into one river, the unit for territorial management. In the European Framework Directive, we have already started to do so with the river basin management plans, but we have to go farther than this, and we have to create justice between those that are living upstream and downstream, and we have to create justice between the humans and the non-human beings. Next, please. So I asked people, starting in a conference in Wuhan 2018, can we live in peace, or peace again, with our rivers, and how? And 125 authors from 24 countries have answered and delivered 28 biocultural case studies of rivers worldwide, which you can read yourself in this book, River Culture, which just has been issued at UNESCO Publishing. Next, please. If you want to know more about this, you can flash this, and you can, as I said, download the entire book. It is for free. It's still not printed, but we hope we will find a sponsor for printing soon. Next. So the bottom line message of this book is, if we take the ups and downs here in this graph, in the vertical axis and the time axis to the right, in our traditional societies we have ups and downs, we have drawbacks by floods and so on, but the nature was also able to recover. In the industrial times, the rivers are mostly on a downward movement, but some of these societies are making a turning point, a catharsis. But do we need a catastrophe to reach these turning points, as it was the case for the Rhine River with the Sandoz accident, the chemical spill that killed most of the fish in the Rhine? Only after this event and several flood catastrophes, cooperation on the Rhine between the different member states were really active. Before, they just existed on paper. Next. So my approach tries to bring this more into a softer version. We do not have to wait for a catastrophe. We have to analyze in detail the problem spheres of the biophysical problem like water pollution. We have to know the social sphere, what is the decision-taking system in the respective place, in the respective society and culture. The problem sphere is very similar all over the world. Take just plastic pollution in rivers or water pollution. But the social sphere is different. That is what this book here is good for, that we have an overview of who is dealing what, how. And finally, if we can overlay these two, we will find a solution sphere for these. I give you 4 short examples. Projeto Manuelzão in Brazil, Belo Horizonte. People wanted to stop waterborne diseases. The infant mortality was just too high. So starting with medical doctors, academics, and the social movement, and finally the government took over. But we were in a time of the Rio 1992 conference, and the political background was very favorable. In India, people are active in community-based conservation initiatives to reduce the clogging of the rivers by plastic and by invasive plants. In Zurich, it was an economical argument. It is too expensive to treat rainwater in wastewater treatment plants. So dividing wastewater and rainwater was a good idea, enabling the daylighting of 62 kilometers of streams in the city that are wet burned and are now back again. And finally, in the Allier River in France, 25-year-long dialogue between an NGO and the energy provider in France resulted in that the dam was lowered by 70% and is still producing 80% of the energy, but it can be completely lifted when the salmons are migrating, and this is helping the last populations of the salmon to survive. And the recipes for success, well, we are working on this in detail. Here's just a short list. Cultural connectivity is key. It is important that the people are understanding what we are doing. We need a match between bottom-up movement, grassroots NGOs, and top-down by the governments, and perseverance, repetitive, reiterative processes are important, and we need charismatic leaders. Next. So if we see what Maciej and I have written together for the synergies between the ecohydrology and the river culture approaches, we are very well aligned. We have many, many points in common. I will not go through all of them, but the next it's very important that the advanced nature-based solutions, these are the ecosystem bionics I'm talking about, learn from nature and integrate it in a smart way. Next. So let us make ecohydrology and river culture game changers, from the sociocentric to the evolutionary ecosystemic. We have an awareness crisis. People are just letting go. Business as usual is continuing. So we have to support, restore, and or event human-nature relationships. The water supply crisis, we really are running short in water in the landscape at the global scale. So we need to enhance natural water storage in riparian wetlands and forests instead of damming rivers. And the biocultural meltdown, it's not only about biodiversity, it's not only about cultural diversity, both together need healthy socio-ecosystems and justice. And the flood damages and heat waves in cities require that we think completely anew about this, not only considering cutting the crest of it, but really using the water for storage in natural floodplains and human river encounter sites, which are helping to get into contact with the river, especially for urbanites. And the water pollution there, Maciej has already said it all, ecohydrology, enhancement of natural processes and recreation of floodplains. Next. Oh yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now I would like to ask Professor Luis Chicharo, Vice Chairman, Ecohydrology, Water Quality in HP9, to lead the panel discussion, and we'll start maybe from the left, Stefano Fazzi, and so on. Yeah? Please, Luis, take care about that. Everybody. Except Professor Yaya from Nigeria. Stefano.
Good morning, everybody. So we're going to start for our panel session.
So we're going to start for our panel session. From these presentations, we are able to see how ecology can address many problems regarding water issues, about improving ecosystem services, biodiversity, water quality, even culture and education, as was just presented. So now we are going to check a little bit what are the advantages and the limitations that ecohydrology is facing. And for that, we have only one question for the panelists. In this, how ecohydrology implementation can act as a game changer for water management in order to accelerate the achievement of sustainable development goals, and also which, if any, bottlenecks are limiting such implementation. So this is the, let's say, the key question for all of you, and I'm very happy to count with Dr. Stefano Fazzi, Mr. John Rowan, Ms. Donga Ko from Korea, Ms. Katarzyna Izidorczyk from Poland, Mr. Przemek Gruszewski from Poland too, and Mr. John Bulek from Bahamas and representing Latin America. And Miguel Dori, okay, sorry Miguel, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Okay, so we have 5 minutes each, so it's limited question time. So please keep the time, and thank you. We can start by Stefan.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank the Polish government and the UNESCO for giving me the opportunity to be here today. Okay, in the framework of UNESCO HP Ecohydrology program, and thanks to a very tight scientific collaboration between the Polish Academy of Science and the National Research Council, we have been applying a holistic approach to integrate knowledge and find new solutions for improving water quality, enhancing natural-based solutions. In particular, we study carbon and nutrient cycling in aquatic environment, and this know-how is then translated in natural-based solutions, such as reconstructed wetlands and sequential barriers. We learn from natural environment, as for example from our intermittent Mediterranean rivers, that due to the summer drought get disconnected is in isolated pools. In these pools, we study how the water retention time affects the microbial metabolism, the reactivity of the biofilms, and the dynamic of the greenhouse gases. We try to understand how the system functions and how we can force microbes to perform certain processes that can help us to improve water quality. In doing this, we apply advanced molecular tools such as DNA sequencing to assess the functional potentiality of the autochthonous communities. Environmental DNA, what is now called eDNA, could become not only an important instrument for establishing a new bioindicators of water quality, but more importantly, can become functional indicators. In synthesis, genomics can help us to understand the functional characteristic of the system. We also advance natural-based solutions by studying new natural materials that can help us in purifying waters and recover and reuse nutrients, such as phosphorus, that is becoming a critical raw material. We combine natural-based solution with iron-coated biochar called soft phosphorus, and this material can then be used as soil fertilizer. At the same time, we improve water quality and increase the carrying capacity of the system. To conclude, another important aspect is related to capacity building. In addition to UNESCO training in ecohydrology, we are all involved in the Erasmus Mundus Master in applied ecohydrology, led by Professor Cicero. But more importantly, we are thinking to build up, to establish an ecohydrology lab network among all the UNESCO ecohydrology demo sites in order to share technique and samples and apply the same approach at all demo sites. This will certainly help in integrated knowledge and increase the technical capacity of the stakeholders and the scientific community that implement activities in the demo sites, providing an important background for the enhancement of natural-based solutions under different geographical, socioeconomic, and cultural contexts. Thank you very much.
Can we pass now to John, please?
Thank you, Chair, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the invitation to participate in these important proceedings. My name is John Rowan. I'm a Professor and Director of the UNESCO Centre for Water Law, Policy and Science, which is based in the University of Dundee in Scotland. We were established as a Category 2 water centre by UNESCO's IHP programme in 2008, with a mandate to pursue interdisciplinary approaches spanning legal, policy and science activities, promoting development through good water governance. So I feel that's a very appropriate mandate for today's proceedings, and I'm honoured to be with you today. So we work across multiple scales and varied ecosystems and climatic zones, from deglaciating montane environments in the Andes and Himalayas to tropical lowlands, including parts of the Zambezi Basin and across peninsular India and Bangladesh. We also undertake considerable eco-hydrological research and engagement in the UK, particularly in Scotland, where there are 3 IHP HELP basins. And you may remember, colleagues, that HELP is the programme, a flagship programme of UNESCO, which is based on hydrology, environment, life and policy. It's a programme with over 90 basins worldwide, not all of which are particularly dynamic at the moment, but we happen to have 3 marked on this small map, on the Dee, the Don and the Tweed. All have source-to-sea hydrometric networks, extensive stakeholder engagement with local landowners, agricultural, fisheries, forestry and industrial users like the Scottish whisky industry, along with environment and conservation agencies, both regulatory and NGOs. All of these systems are famous Atlantic salmon rivers, with associated keystone aquatic species such as otters, lampreys and freshwater pearl mussels. So I'm going to restrict my remarks today to ongoing work that's in the Eddleston Water, which is a sub-catchment of the Tweed Basin. It's approximately 70 kilometres square, and it spans the border country between southern Scotland and northern England. And I've got real pleasure to announce today that the Eddleston Water was confirmed as the latest UNESCO Ecohydrology demonstration site. We've already heard from our distinguished speakers how these sites embrace strategies to achieve sustainability of ecosystems, closely related to water, and to improve IWRM through these interesting new acronyms around water, biodiversity, ecosystem services, resilience, culture and education. And we very much welcome this conceptual evolution, and particularly the idea around looking at enhancement and going beyond, which is incredibly exciting as a new paradigm. So we believe that the ongoing action-based research in the Eddleston Water provides valuable perspectives and transferability of approach to sustainable and climate-resilient water resources. It's an example of multi-agency and stakeholder collaboration, focused particularly on reducing flood risk and restoring ecohydrology for the socio-economic and cultural benefit of local communities and wildlife, and providing resilience against ongoing climate change. The particular driver for this investment in this extended science programme was that in Scotland there was the establishment of the Flood Risk Management Act of 2009, which created a legally binding requirement for government to generate new evidence upon which to base policy and to implement law and to bring forward regulation. So it's incredibly important to see this interface and this nexus between political and policy aspiration and the delivery of science, and in this case to maximise the benefits of nature-based solutions towards catchment and societal well-being, particularly around the concept of natural flood management. So in the past 14 years we've developed a world-class hydrometric network of weather station stream gauges, aquifer behavioural characterisation, water quality, and parallel with ecological social survey, importantly and interestingly economic evaluation, and lots of stakeholder engagement to try and bring the multiple publics on side to the project. So since the baseline study was established, the researchers sought to evaluate the performance of multiple nature-based interventions within the catchment, seeking to restore ecological function and deliver benefits, particularly around natural flood management. So there's been the creation of retention ponds, there's been the reinstating of meanders in the main channel, and placement of leaky woody dams, upslope and valley bottom afforestation, and appropriate levels of ecosystem service mapping along with it to understand the changes that are happening within the system. Much of this has been led by local communities, a very engaged and effective community called the Tweed Forum, and I was very interested to hear the professor's commentary about the importance of having continuity, to have inspiring leadership, and to have persistence in terms of trying to deliver these long-term, multi-generational, aspirational programs. And I think this has been a case in point here, and we also acknowledge and welcome the ongoing research and support and funding support we've had from the Scottish, the UK, and European funding mechanisms. So just to say that we can now see with the establishment of this detailed programme that the benefits of natural flood management can be realised by these multiple interventions. For example, we've planted over 300,000 native trees. We can see profound changes in the soil infiltration characteristics, all of which is leading to very diverse changes in connectivity and the benefits of slowing the flow and biodiversity recovery. In fact, thank you, Chair, apologies. So I just wanted to formally acknowledge here in the UN headquarters that the success is about leadership, and to particularly acknowledge Mr. Luke Cummings of the Tweed Forum, Chris Spray and Andrew Black of the UNESCO Water Centre for the work that's ongoing, and we'll move beyond that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Now we move to Ms. Longa Ko from National Committee of Republic, UNESCO IHP Committee of Republic of Korea. Please, short. Can you present yourself, please?
Yeah. Your Excellency, your distinguished guests, thank you very much for inviting me here, and I'm very honored to be part of this session with this significant agenda. I'm Dong-Ah Ko from Korean National Committee of the IHP, UNESCO IHP. Within this given time, this is not my presentation, but maybe I could just skip that one. Within this given time, I'd like to share a case in Korea that has proved the advantages of the eco-hydrological holistic approach when planning the restoration of the river basin. So its case, it isn't either, but yeah. But it's just like one slide, so I don't need to use it. Yeah. But yeah, so it's a case from Ulsan, a million population city designated as industry and manufacturing cluster since 1962. And the city has grown rapidly along with the Korean economic boom, as you know already. Within this time, the city has been growing rapidly, as I said, and along with the Korean economic boom and with the human-centered development. Consequently, the river crossing across the city has been significantly contaminated, and which measured to be 11.3 BOD in 1996, which indicates the water quality is very poor and difficult for underwater lives to live alone. Also, from human perspective, there were non-ecosystem services provided to the citizens, and at this point, the river was infamously called Death River. In the early 2000s, the city realized the needs for the change, and the holistic approach has been implemented. And therefore, Ulsan declared they will restore the basin not only for water quality, but also thinking about the biodiversity, ecosystem service, and as well as the resilience of the city, and which called WBSR, as Professor Janowski said. Nowadays, the water quality has significantly changed. So BOD now changed from 11 to 1.2, measured in 2016. And not only the water quality, as following the improvement of the water quality, there was a return from the various underwater species, such as salmon. So it has been counted less than 5 in 2003, but nowadays it's 1,800 coming in the same river. Also, the life on the above the land come back to the basin, and now 20,000 water birds, including endangered species, are nesting and resting at the basin. It is important to note that still Ulsan city is an industrial city, and their also population is growing slowly but steadily. However, implementing the ecohydrology on the basin at the early stage of the planning has achieved a sustainable and resilient development. So which benefits not only the mankind and also the biodiversity. Further, improved water quality has led the city government to be able to provide water leisures. So there's some like swimming races and the eco tour, bird watching activities to the citizens, which ultimately raise the environmental awareness and the educational perspective, as the professor said. So to sum up, a holistic approach, overarching WBSR, is proven to be effective for the sustainable development, as you see from the Ulsan case, and continue to be influential in cultural education aspect as well. So here, our IHP National Committee is determined to support this approach and dissemination of the WBSR practice from Korean cities by suggesting those basins to be part of UNESCO recognized ecohydrology site. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move to Latin America, to Mr. Miguel Doria, regional hydrologist for to UNESCO HP, and so you have 3 minutes, Miguel.
So thank you very much, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation also to be part of this panel. Well, as we all know, Latin America and the Caribbean is home to a very large diversity in hydrological terms. It has the world's widest basin, the Amazon, the widest estuary, in La Plata, the widest wetland, Pantanal, 95% of the world glaciers in the Andes, also the driest non-polar desert in Atacama, Guarani, also the largest aquifers and so on and so forth, but it's also threatened by a whole diversity of challenges and changes. like climate change, droughts affecting many parts of the region right now, urbanization, land use change, and all this, of course, puts enormous pressures not only on ecosystems but also on our societies. And I think that the theme of this conference, the World Water Day this year, is rating change. Has a lot also to do with this session. So it's when we speak about this rating change, we speak about this rating solutions, and we have very present that ecohydrology is one of the solutions that that we can use to achieve the future we want in Agenda 2030, and for that we need to accelerate it as well. So we are very happy on one hand to report that ecohydrology in LAC, it's accelerating in terms of, for instance, demonstration sites. It grew exponentially in the last 5 years. It passed from 3 to 9. We need 81 probably in the next 5 years, so to follow the track. And here it's also working with other parts of UNESCO, since as the MAP program with World Heritage. We now have a site in Galapagos. Also with ancestral hydro technologies, and just to remind that 1 month ago we had actually a conference on this topic. Latin America is also home to a very large diversity in cultural terms, and all this is due, of course, to I think a wonderful team of experts from the countries in the region. We had Marcelo Gavinho, Marco Albanacin, and Chavez, and of course John Bollock, that is the current coordinator, and whom will take the word from here. So John, please. From Bahamas, sorry. I think Luis will.
Okay. John, please.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Excellencies and guests. And I think just to reiterate what has been said from Latin America and the Caribbean, it's a very interesting blend of small island states and also continental countries. And what I really want to state here is I think through conversation we can learn so much more. I'm a civil engineer, I come from an engineering background, so typically we build and we're taught to build against what is natural. But through ecohydrology, the cultural aspect and the nature-based solutions are much more beneficial to us all. Climate change has brought us all together and continues to bring us all together. So this it has encouraged our discussions and our appreciation for a cultural approach and non-typical, but which has been the approach, the holistic approach to solutions that we all require for flooding, drought, rather than just building many more structures. And I want to encourage I'm hoping that someday we will meet the 81, and I think we are growing in terms of ecohydrology sites. Speaking from Latin America and the Caribbean, it's not just Latin America and the Caribbean. I think we can learn from each other. We learn from all aspects. Water is that binding thread that brings us all together. And I just want to highlight 2 new sites in Latin America and Caribbean. The Quebradas Park site in Chile and the Rio Santo Antonio site in Brazil. So we continue to move forth, and I think through conversation, through dialogue, open dialogue with the other regions, we can return to our cultural aspects of control of water, and not really control of water because we really can't control the water, but working together with water. So thank you.
Now let's move to the management, to Mr. Przemek Gruszecki, Director of the Department of Water and Environment Management, State Holding Polish Waters for São Paulo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the question. I know we are running out of time, so I'll do my best to answer briefly. From a perspective of a competent authority, competent in water management sector, I'd say there are 3 difficulties to implement scientific projects or more demanding projects in water management. The first is that public administration is sectoral. So we act in our own given fields under regulations that must be followed. So I would say sometimes we got stuck in trenches. We keep the place where we are. On the other hand, the scientific world may be pretty divided. So sometimes there are conflicts, different opinions, different visions, even jealousy. And governmental perspective might be difficult to understand because it imposes its own limitations. So we should be more open-minded to think wider, to be ready for those more sophisticated projects and scenarios, because our main aim, the main purpose is to deliver water in proper quality and quantity to all reasonable needs. Thank you.
Last but not the least, of course, we are moving to Ms. Katarzyna Zidorski. She's the new director of the UNESCO Center in Poland. So please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present some results from Pilica River Basin. This is research which was done in European Regional Center for Ecohydrology with strong cooperation with Polish waters. Pilica River Basin, as you can see from the photos, this is typical lowland catchment used mainly for agriculture. This generates the problem of nutrients pollution from non-point sources, and as consequence, eutrophication of surface water, especially the occurrence of toxic cyanobacteria blooms in reservoirs. The measures such as enhanced buffer zone and sequential systems were answers to our needs. This advanced nature-based solution, due to their multifunctionality, contribute to water purification and retention, increase biodiversity through the creation of new habitats, and provide a service to society. Next, please. But it's important to remember that advanced NBS are targeted measures, meaning that they are dedicated to the specific problem and they need to be located in the optimal place at the river basin scale. And for this reason, we have used mathematical modeling. By applying the models at a catchment scale, we can first assess the threats and risk and then translate this information into the identification of priority critical area and choose the right solution, for example, advanced nature-based solution or some kinds of hybrid solution. And the next, as postulates the ecohydrology, ecosystem can be used as a tool for water management. The question is how we can reconnect those lakes or restore regulated rivers for enhancement ecosystem resilience. The answer of this question is the further developing of advanced nature-based solution, because we need to fully understand the ecohydrological process in this ecosystem in order to enhance them. The answer for this question is the task for researcher, but now we move further to the next step. It means implementation, and here we see the buttons. The next slide, please. The key element in the implementation of advanced NBS should be the involvement of stakeholders at local, regional, and national level. They should be involved in the initial stage of all projects, from co-assessment through co-planning and co-design to co-implementation. This co-creation process allows us to identify gaps and opportunity. I was saying during opening session of conference, we need to listen. And next, please. Our 15 years experience in collaboration with stakeholders show that in order to empower bottom-up initiatives, it's necessary to give them some kind of formal structure. For example, in Poland, the Ministry of Agriculture has launched the Local Water Partnership Program. This is a great idea for local water management in the agriculture area. However, one of the conclusions of this partnership creation workshops is that we need local leaders. So that final element is education, especially the young leaders. Involving the new generation is one of opportunity to achieve the goals of European Green Deal and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. All the speakers, and I invite all the panelists and all the presenters to submit to the journal Ecohydrology the papers when you explain more your points. And in this moment we'll have really important document which is summarizing our brainstorming today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. By the one word to the finish of this conference, how to sum up by one word, we have to continue. Thank you very much.